I didn't think, like, we'd actually be shifting divergence. Although the fact that this next one's called Pandora's Box really bothers me. For the first time in almost 4 months, it felt like the whole world was twisting. Who was it? Who had changed the world line? I didn't do anything. I hadn't interfered with the world. So why was the world doing this to me? What the fuck? Where am I? I opened my eyes. Things had already taken different colours. The world kept wavering until once again it became fixed on a single point in time. I wasn't looking at the warm, cheerful party in the lab anymore. I was outside. It was raining. The rain was falling on my face in drops so large that it hurt. It was a midwinter rain. It was freezing cold, and I could feel it sapping the strength from my body. My view stopped twisting. I was staring at the broad back of a man I didn't know. I could hear the sound of many boots stamping through the mud, mingling with the falling rain. The stench was terrible. The smell of sewage was so strong it hurt to breathe. It was mixed with the awful smell of burning rubber and plastic. Where was I? What was I doing right now? Things around me had changed so much. I tried to understand the situation I was in, but my brain was having an awful time keeping up. We're almost there. Hang in there. When I stopped, a rough hand patted me on the shoulder encouragingly. I looked around to see a man my age with a strong, powerful face. It was a face I'd never seen. I didn't know him. Probably. The man was wearing the camo outfit and equipment I'd often seen the self-defense force wearing on the news. He was carrying an assault rifle on his shoulder. There were 7 or 8 people all around me, all dressed the same. They surrounded me in a circular formation and walked forward silently, as I kept a careful eye on the area around them. Are these people the self-defense force? And then I realized I was wearing the same camo uniform they were. I'm in the SDF too? I touched my bicep to check, but there was no muscle. It was all flabby and weak. Unlike the others, I wasn't carrying any weapons. And what was going on here? I felt like these 7 or 8 tough-looking SDF guys were all guarding me. Since when was I that important? Still confused, I dragged myself onward. Where was I, anyway? It was a long path filled with dark brown mud. The walls formed a tall silhouette to the left and right. The path was filled with garbage and concrete rubble, and sometimes we had to force our way past it. What is with this overly dramatic music? I looked up past the high walls. Despite the rain, the moon in the night sky was strangely red and a little too bright. It was thanks to the moon that we were able to walk down a path like this without flashlights. Huh? Sound. I heard a sound. It was the sound of water. I looked over and saw a hole in one of the walls. Filthy water was pouring out. The water formed dozens of little rivers that blocked our path. So that was it. This was the bottom of a river that had dried up. What looked like high walls were the river dikes. Where are we? I turned towards the man who'd spoken to me a bit ago and yelled so that my voice could be heard over the rain. Shh! Don't make any loud noises. Oh, sorry. We're almost through the city center. If we can make it to the Narima garrison, there'll be a car waiting for you, so just keep walking. But his words cut off there. Everyone seemed more tense than ever. One of them grabbed me and pushed me toward the side of the riverbed. Everyone put their backs against the wall and held their breath. I could hear the sound of a helicopter rotors in the distance. No, more than just one. They were getting closer. I had no idea what was going on, but I could feel my heart start to beat faster. Get in the shadow of that car. Past several meters of rubble lay an overturned car. It must have fallen into the riverbed after the water had disappeared. The entire body was bent inwards and the roof was completely crushed. I lay down in the stinking mud and slid in the shadow of the overturned car. At the same time, the SDF soldiers were issuing each other orders, as if this was something they'd planned for already. 2 of them stayed by my side, and everyone else ran back the way they'd come. They all climbed up crevices and outcroppings on the wall, then disappeared over the edge of the dike and out of my view. Shortly after... Huh? Those were gunshots. And not just a single shot from a handgun or anything like that. This was the sound of war. I could hear the helicopters get further away, drawn by the gunfire. Oh no. In this world line, was Japan at war? The Third World War. I remembered Suzua's words. I happened to look inside the crushed car. I could see the corpses of a man, a woman, and a small child hanging upside down, still attached to their seatbelts. They were all covered in dried black blood. They looked like mannequins at a bad haunted house. And then I realized I'd been so focused on moving that I hadn't noticed what they were, but I'd seen similar mannequins sunk into the mud. I could see their arms, the bones and ragged muscle exposed to the air, reaching up at the sky as if seeking salvation. I put my hand over my mouth as if to stifle a scream. Those weren't mannequins. Now! Get along the wall and move now! Huh? We're changing the route. Come on, stand up! He pulled me up. My knees were shaking from shock and exhaustion. The others are drawing away the Soviets' helicopters, but that won't last long. Hurry! Wait a minute! The Soviet Union came back? Oh, shit! That ain't good. The Soviet Union? My mind was dulled from the terror, but it seems like there was something off about what he just said. Yeah, you don't say! Get a hold of yourself! Do you know how many people have died to protect you? But the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991! Protect me? Why? We haven't been told why. But we were told to lay our lives on the line for you if we had to. And that you could change this country's future. A helicopter passed over the riverbed. The bright searchlight passed for a moment, but thankfully the shadow of the dike hid us. This way! The young SDF soldier, whose name I didn't even know, pulled me inside one of the holes in the concrete. When I looked closely, I could see there was an entrance to a sewer. It was just big enough for a single person to pass through. Struggling against the flow of the water that came up to my knees, I pressed on through the darkness. My sense of smell had already gone numb, so I didn't have to worry about the stench of the sewage. Once inside, we came to several branching paths. The SDF soldiers seemed to know which ones would lead where, and they marched on without hesitation. And then we came out of the sewer and back into a riverbed. It was dried up, just like the one we'd been through. I don't know if it was the same river or another one, and the 2 soldiers didn't tell me. Either way, I was glad to be finally out of the foul-smelling darkness, and I tried to take a deep breath and fill my lungs with fresh air. But... halfway through, I realized that the riverbed smelled even worse than the sewer. I took an involuntary step back, and then another. The sight in front of me was just that terrible. What was once a riverbed was now filled with bodies. Some of them had been burned totally black, so it was impossible to tell how much death lay before me. And in the distance I could see what looked like bonfires. They were burning despite the rain. The fires were consuming the mountains of flesh that were once human bodies. We're almost there! I know it's rough, but can you run? Huh? Yeah. The SDF soldier spoke to me, and then I came back to my senses. If it weren't for these two, I wouldn't have been able to stay sane. We ran through the riverbed, one of them in front of me, the other behind. I could hear the constant drone of the helicopters above me. Sometimes the searchlights got very close. Each time they did, I hid in the piles of bodies until they passed. I'd seen this many times before as I wandered through the world lines. I'd seen death. I'd seen the moments when people had died. But at the same time, I never experienced what happened to another dead person after they were left out for a long time. More than fear, more than sorrow, the thing that hit me first was the smell of death. Yeah, I won't say from experience, well, not first-hand experience. Someone I know, like, deals with the dead people for a living, and yeah, it's not pleasant. The rotting stench ate away at my body, not my soul. My whole body was rejecting it. It made me feel sick. Thinking that way meant trampling on the dignity of the dead, but I couldn't help it. The Valley of Himon. I remembered that phrase. That was what the strange attacker had said that night, when they came after Dr. Leskinen, Maho, and me. It is better for you to enter the life with one eye than to have two eyes and be thrown into the Valley of Himon. That valley was the origin of the word Gehenna, meaning hell. It was said that flames burned there every night, scorching the heavens themselves. Those who died merciless deaths with anger and misery in their hearts were flung into the flames, their soul becoming black smoke that rained hatred down on the land. What I stared at now was Gehenna. The two soldiers led me to a half-collapsed subway tunnel. The lights were all off because there was no electricity, but there were 3 armored cars in camo colors, with their headlights on to illuminate the way. There were 4-wheel drive, off-road vehicles, covered in thick chunks of armor, but I didn't see any real weapons. You can take the subway route to escape Saitama. I hear it's still safe at Iruma base. If you can get that far, you should be able to escape to Kanto. Escape Kanto? Ask them about it. For now, just hurry! There were a lot of things I wanted to ask, but even as we spoke, I heard what sounded like gunshots outside the tunnel. The men forced me into the back seat of one of the cars. Goodbye. I'll be praying for your safety. What? What about you guys? We have another mission to carry out. Farewell. The 2 soldiers who had brought me here saluted, then turned around and left the station. I felt like I was never going to see them again. The door to the armored car slammed shut with a heavy thud. The car's crew were FDF soldiers, just a little older than me. The diesel engine kicked to life and the car raced down the tunnel that had originally been designed for trains. Of course, it wasn't a pleasant ride at all, but I didn't have any choice. There was no way I could tell them I wanted to go to Akihabara. I had no way to alter the world line. I had to survive in this hellish world. And to survive, I needed to do what they said. My wants didn't matter at all. I wasn't even allowed to express them. I just did as they told me and ran. It was all I could do. But I had no idea that it would take an entire month. Wait a minute. The story so far. The USSR started experimenting with a time machine and America goes apeshit. Give me that time machine, USSR. But I refuse! Eastern powers and Soviets get cocky. How does it feel to be you right now, huh? How does it feel? This brings us to the end of your regularly scheduled Cold War. US, I'ma bomb you from Japan, www, then we'll invade Japan. US, oh shit, right now. Or us, I don't know. Anonymous Security Council. USSR is kicking ass. Hokkaido and any Japan is screwed. Are they coming for Central Japan now? People of Nagoya, get the fuck out. Amateurs who know nothing about strategy need to shut the fuck up. The SDF may look like they're retreating, but they've actually got a defense line at Mount Fuji. They're about to start the counterattack. The Mount Fuji line. Who the hell is dumb enough to believe Japanese Imperial High Command? We'd better not start hearing calls for kamikaze pilots soon. Shut up, noob. Idiots like you are the real threat to Japan. Wait, what the hell happened to the collective right of self-defense? America's only interested in protecting Okinawa. So what the hell is SDF doing to get sent off to Siberia? How are they supposed to protect the country? You protect it, Chicken Hawk. You want to fight? Go volunteer. They say they aren't getting enough recruits. Are they going to start conscription soon, you think? What's the point of conscripting a bunch of fat otaku? They just get in the way. War these days requires professional soldiers, says the fat otaku who doesn't want to go to war. These are barely any professional soldiers left in Japan. Our masters in America sent them all around the globe and then stuck them here. You guys will probably be getting your conscription notices soon. Good luck. I'm a chick, so I don't care. Oh, big oof! You got conscripted as too. If Suzu is to believe anything. In other words, if we get a sex change, we don't have to go, right? The real enemies of Japan are its own citizens. Huh, asshole. So seriously, we're going to be split up like Germany? It's unlikely. They say there's a provisional government forming in Okinawa. They are set to abandon East Japan and just have America protect the West. These incompetents in the government might honestly do it. Is this really time to bash politicians? Traitorous shill. Traitor! Shill! I don't know how to pronounce the W's. Strategically, America can't let go of Okinawa. And Japan wants to keep some kind of government. That means making a provisional government in Okinawa is the best option. You bashed the hell of Okinawa up until now, and you're telling me this? Shut up, traitor. So if I'm a traitor, what are you? If you're posting on @Chen right now, that means you've either fled the country or ran to Okinawa. Is this today's you don't get to talk thread? The reason it took a month to get to Okinawa was that we were losing the war. Oh, I mean, duh! The Soviets came! No one wins against the Soviets in actual war. You just Cold War the shit out of them until they fuck themselves over. Supposedly, the plan had been to ferry me by plane to Okinawa once I'd arrived at Hiruma base. But the constant bombing had slowed us down, so they gave up on the plane and decided I would escape to Kyushu by ground. There was more than one attack by Soviet spies and assault teams. Some of the SDF soldiers protecting me died. But when I got to Sasebo, I was able to get on to a maritime SDF escort ship and managed to escape to Okinawa. Why were they doing this all for me? No matter how many times I asked, no one would answer. Okinawa in winter was covered by thick clouds. Come to think of it, I haven't seen a real break in the clouds for a whole month. I was thinking about that when I was loaded into a van with dark tinted windows that had come to pick me up from the port. Inside the car was not only the driver, but a middle-aged man sitting in the front passenger seat. He was very short, perhaps only around 150 centimeters tall. But he had the air of the military veteran, and even though he was fully dressed, I could tell he was extremely muscular. Okabe Rentaro, correct? I'm Shimoyama, with the Ministry of Defense's Intelligence Security Command. We're going to make a stop at the airport, and then head to the Okinawa Defense Bureau in Kadena. I'm sure you're tired from your long journey, but I have to ask you to hang in there a while longer.
Okay.
Right. Holy fuck. I'd heard that Tokyo had been destroyed. The major functions of the Japanese government were now headquartered on the Okinawa Defense Bureau to allow for better cooperation with the American forces stationed nearby. That's what Shinoyama had explained to me. Did I pronounce that right, or did I say Shirayama? That's a different Japanese history thing. In other words, the place I was heading to was the core of Japanese's defenses. Once I arrived, I would understand why I was so important that all these soldiers were willing to die to protect me. The car stopped in front of Naha Airport for a while, and then I saw a surprising pair get aboard. Okabe! Wow! It really is Okarin! What the fuck are you two doing here? Have you been conscripted? You're... Yuki and Nakase! I wasn't expecting to see them here. They were really the first people I knew who I'd met since coming to this world line. That alone was enough to make me cry. But still, I couldn't just sit there and be happy. What about Mayuri? Do you know where she is? She's fine. Yuki nodded as if trying to make me feel better. She was just with us. Just with you? That's right. Mayushi and Brumaho and Luka and Kaide. We got to the airport this morning. We were all waiting because they said we could go to some place called the Defense Bureau where we'd be safe. They just said they'd take Fubuki and me there first. And then they had us get inside this car where we found you. Anyway, I'm glad everybody's safe. Since Daro and Suzuo weren't mentioned, I was going to ask about them, but... Sorry, but can you talk about this later? Shimoyama cut me off and the car started moving. The plan is for your families to arrive at the Okinawa Defense Bureau eventually. We already have them under our protection. Really? Oh, I'm so glad. Your other friends are all in the car behind us. You haven't been separated, so don't worry. I took a quick look and saw another identical van a little behind us. So Mayuri and the others were there? Then we'll see them later, right? Of course. Yuki let out a sigh of relief. But then I started to wonder about something else. Why were we split into different cars? This van could hold at least another 3 people. If we squeezed in tight, it could easily hold more. Or was there some reason they put me, Yuki, and Fubuki into the same car? The car drove alongside the Okinawa monorail for a while, and then went south down a wide bypass. It's so dark. Huh? What was that? Nothing. It's just... There are all these stores, but they're all dark. There were lots of franchise restaurants, big supermarkets, cafeterias for tourists, and rent-a-car places all jammed together along the side of the road. But all of them were dead silent with their lights turned off. Barely any of the streetlights were turned on, and the only cars were Japanese and US military vehicles. I didn't see anyone out walking. There's a blackout in effect, as well as a curfew past 5 PM. Okinawa may be safe, but this is still wartime. Things can't be like they were. I can't wait for the war to end and everything to go back to normal. Wartime, huh? Tell me, Okabe. The Okinawa you knew was a bright, fun place, even at night, wasn't it? Oh, I wouldn't know. I've never been to Okinawa before. That's a shame. I pray you get to come back for a good vacation sometime. This is a really nice island. The car headed up from the bypass over a land bridge, and then to another road. We quickly came from a long tunnel. I actually wanted to ask the 3 of you some questions before we go to the bureau. That's why I have you riding with me. Huh? My guess was right. That meant there was something he wanted to ask just the 3 of us. But why us 3? I wasn't particularly close to Yuki or Fubuki. I only ever started talking to them a few months ago. And then I shook my head. That was before the world line changed. Maybe things were different in this world line. I had no idea what my relationship was to anyone in this world line. Since the SDF had been treating me so well, I didn't want to make Shimoyama suspicious. I decided it would be best to leave most of the talking to Yuki and Fubuki. Yuki Amane. Yes? Shimoyama spoke to Yuki first. Yuki went stiff when her name was called. I could feel it even sitting next to her. You don't know Itaru Hashida and his little sister are, do you? Little sister? That must be Suzuha. That would mean that even in this world line, Suzuha had come from the future, gotten to know Yuki and the others while pretending to be Suzuha's sister. And the SDF evidently didn't know where Daru and Suzuha were. No, I... Yuki fell silent and glanced over at me, as if expecting help. But I didn't know where they were either. I didn't even have any memories of this world line, so I had no way of answering. But Yuki's attitude bothered me. It was as if she knew where they were and was deliberately hiding it, and that I was supposed to be hiding it too. I could figure that out, and I'm sure Shimoyama could too. A strange tension filled the car. Yuki was trying to hide it? From whom? Huh? You sure you don't know? Shimoyama turned around from the front passenger seat and asked again. I'm sorry. Yuki bowed her head in apology. But you were very close to him, weren't you? You were his lover, and yet you heard nothing. You know that cell phones don't work anymore, right? There are plenty of ways to get in touch with someone besides a cell phone. But I really don't. Nothing from his sister either. Nothing. By the way, I'm told you were researching something with Hashida, Okabe. Huh? I wasn't sure how to react when the conversation suddenly turned toward me. Researching? Researching what? Uh-oh. If I panic, I'll make them suspicious. What were you researching? I would just have to give him the most harmless answers I could. Wasn't really research. It's more like inventions. Inventions? Like whether you could attach a CCD camera to a bamboo copter and do aerial photography. Or whether you could use the heat of a vacuum cleaner as a hairdryer. Oh, well, that's interesting. Then you weren't, say, making something unbelievable and running away from us so that we wouldn't find out what it was. Running away? Damn, I responded. That was a mistake. But did that mean that Daru and Suzuha were hiding from SDF amidst the chaos? The SDF had risked their lives to protect me over the past month. Shouldn't I be asking them for help? I got even more confused. If you don't know, then that's fine. We'll talk about Hashida and his sister some other time. Somebody please tell me the right answer is. How am I supposed to respond here? Katsumi Nakase. There was something else I wanted to ask you. But me? This time it was Fubuki's turn to jump up in her seat. No, don't get so nervous. It's nothing big. Also, Shimoyama said, but Fubuki was clearly starting to get scared. Her reaction was strange. It was too strong. Maybe the self-defense forces weren't simply protecting us. For one thing, there was no way normal civilians like us merited such important treatment. But then, what were they after? No, I could guess. The time machine. This war started with Russia's time machine experiments. And of course, Nakabachi was involved. I'd learned from some of the soldiers that even on this world line he'd sought asylum in Russia. And Suzuha was a time traveler from the year 2036. If Suzuha was here in this era, that means that Daru who made the time machine that brought her here. If you had a time machine, you could change the outcome of this war. It would make sense if that's what the Japanese government thought, and that's why they were trying to capture Daru, Suzuha, and their friends. Once I realized that, the whole situation started to feel terrifying to me. Was this car really headed towards the Okinawa Defense Bureau? And if it was, were they really going to keep us safe there? About the physical you underwent last week.
Was there some problem?
No. You've almost recovered from the wounds you sustained in Tokyo, and health-wise you're fine. But you're under a lot of stress.
Oh.
Well, it's not surprising. You survived that terrible bombing. It's no exaggeration to say that most civilians have PTSD now. Goddamn post-traumatic stress disorder. But it seems like your symptoms are a little different than most people's. You have very realistic dreams, for example. In particularly severe instances, they could almost be called waking dreams. I'm told at times you lose the ability to tell the difference between dreams and reality.
Isn't that just PTSD though?
Fubuki was too scared to speak, so Yuki interrupted curtly. It was rare to see Yuki act like this. If nothing else, I'd never seen it before. It was plain now. Yuki didn't trust Shimayama. In fact, she considered him an enemy. No, it's very strange. Shimayama paused for a moment of effect and rubbed his chin. And there are others who say they have very similar dreams, and not just one or two.
What?
Of course, the degree to which they suffer from this changes, but we found more than 10 in Japan alone. They exist in other countries too. Well, we've only got information from the West. That's just a coincidence, isn't it? Fubuki was incredibly frightened, so I spoke in her place. You heard of Puchin, right? Suddenly, Shimayama turned his gaze towards me and asked me a question. Puchin? The Soviet General Secretary, right? I almost said the President of Russia, but managed to stop myself. Oh! Putin! I get the joke now. Oh, fuck. The Soviet Union still existed in this world line. Putin's title was General Secretary, not President. I'd heard that during my time at Iruma. Correct. But interestingly enough, Nakase referred to him as the President of Russia. What?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. And I'm not what you call a good student.
No, that's not it. It's one of the strange things about the people who have dreams. They all call him President Putin. And they all have Gorbachev and Yeltsin presidents too. Gorbachev and Yeltsin? I'm not familiar with those two. I'm slightly too young to know much about the Soviet Union. They collapsed about 5 years before I was born. Actually, now that I think about it, if they're presidents, then they are actually part of the Russian democracy. And not, you know. That's why the scientists have started calling it President's Disease. Not a terribly clever name, if you ask me. No way. Is he talking about reading Steiner? There's a strong chance that people besides me had that power, even if not as acutely. I never found out for sure, but what Ferris had said in the Alpha World line certainly suggested it. So it was certainly possible that Shimayama's waking dreams were actually the effects of reading Steiner. If they were all aware of the world line shift a month ago, just like me. If Fubuki had the same memories of the other world line that I had, it would make perfect sense that she called Putin a president.
Gorbachev? Lelton?
You don't know them? Didn't they teach you that in world history? No, it's mostly like history of your country.
I only took science in high school.
I thought everyone knew about them. The kids today not know who they are? It's hard to believe you're all that ignorant. I'm sure you know about Gorbachev and Leltsin. Leltsin, right, Okabe? Yeah, I suppose so. And a perestroika, and the fall of the Berlin Wall. Perestroika, and the fall. I'm like, I've heard of the fall of the Berlin Wall, but I don't know what perestroika is. Yeah, they were in textbooks. The second after the words were out of my mouth, my alarm went off in my mind. Something was wrong. There was something strange about what Shimoyama was saying. The Berlin Wall probably still exists, and I don't know what the other one is referring to. And then I realized the East and West were caught up in the middle of a world war. How could the Berlin Wall have fallen? And could Gorbachev really execute perestroika? By the time I realized he tricked me, it was too late. My panic appeared on my face. You too, huh? And you were deliberately trying to hide it, weren't you? So the information was right after all. You know something important. Listen, Okabe. I want you to tell me. Shimoyama suddenly laughed. It was a bitter laugh, almost eerily so. Gorbachev? Leltsin? Who are these people y'all keep talking about? We don't have any data on them, and neither do any of the American intelligence agencies. That data doesn't exist. Doesn't exist? I looked over at Yuki. From the look on her face, I could tell that she really had no idea who they were. Perestroika? The fall of the Berlin Wall? Did these things really happen? Tell me. Please. But I couldn't answer. I was thinking of something completely different. Suddenly, I realized why the world line might have changed a month ago on Christmas Eve. What if Russia used the time machine that day in an experiment to change the past? The goal of the experiment would have been to stop the collapse of the Soviet Union. And if the result of them changing the past was this world line? How foolish. A single change to the past and the butterfly effect makes the entire world so different. Did they know how many people had died? Have you and your friends really experienced the history of a different world? I just can't believe it. It's just some nonsense cooked up by some crazy scientists. He was about to push me further when we heard the sound of an incoming call on a cell phone. Shimoyama grunted and took out his phone from his pocket. This is Shimoyama. Yeah, we're on our way to the bureau. What? What do you mean? Damn it. That's the problem with these idiots. What country do these politicians think they're working for? Shimoyama's finger slammed down on the end call button so hard I thought the phone would break. There was a look of rage on his face. Are the Japanese bending to America's will? We're changing our destination. Head to Kadena Base, Gate 2. His words were filled with irritation as he spoke to the driver. Changing destinations? Who's he just talking to? As I sat there confused, Shimoyama started to call someone else. This is Shimoyama. We've changed the destination. We'll meet at Gate 2 at the Canada base. That was all he said before he hung up.
What's going on?
The situation's changed. Okabe is heading to the US military base. From there, he might get to take a fun trip on a US Air Force plane to America. What? America? I'll ask them to make sure you get first class accommodations, but don't get your hopes up. You don't listen to us anymore than you listen to a yapping pet dog. Why America? I don't know if it's the CIA or the NSC, but someone wants us to hand you over. But why? Ask him yourself. Then he turned back toward the front and fell silent, refusing to answer any of my questions. The car went down the road for a while, until we got off at an exit that read South Okinawa. Fucking hell, you have to brake like you're in initial D? Jesus Christ. We stopped in front of the gate. Several US soldiers had evidently been waiting for my arrival. Once we hand you over to the Americans, we're not going to get any accurate information from them. So this is my last chance. Shimoyama turned around from the front passenger seat and looked straight at me. His eyes were desperate and begging. Tell me, what are we supposed to do from now on? Please! I remembered all the soldiers in Tokyo who'd fought so desperately to protect me. Were they fighting to help someone in Tokyo right now? Or were they... I don't know. Okabe! I really don't know! Do you think I could do something about this war all by myself? Knowing that Gorbachev and Yeltsin were presidents of Russia, although they brought a dramatic end to the Cold War, does that actually help anything? I could hear the sound of another car getting closer. Shimoyama sighed and opened the passenger side door. Get out. I exited the car as I was told. Okarin! Oh god, it's military Mayuri. Mayuri got out of the van behind us and ran over to me. Mayuri! Okarin! My childhood friend flung herself into my arms, and I held her tight. I finally get to see you. I'm so glad you're safe. I could feel her warmth. Mayuri was here. I'd never gone almost a whole month without seeing her before. And this was wartime. I couldn't easily contact her like I could in the old world line. So I'd been so worried about whether or not Mayuri was okay. It was no exaggeration to say that I'd survived this far just to make sure. I'd erased the entire Alpha world line just to save her. No matter what happened, I wanted her to be safe. Okarin! You're hurting me! Oh. Sorry. I held her too closely. I took a step back. Mayushi believed, you know? Mayushi believed she'd get to see Okarin again. Yeah. Hooray, you're safe now! Oh, Christ. Okabe! I don't like actually, never mind. I don't mind the military Lukako. It's the military Faris that weirds me out. I heard two more voices I recognized. Faris and Luca. And behind them I saw Kaide. I'm glad you're all safe. Okabe. Hi. Lukako. I felt myself getting choked up too when I saw Lukako cry. I exchanged greetings with Kaide too. Fubuki grabbed onto her like a little kid. She was still pale and trembling. Faris. I guess you're not wearing your maid outfit for once.
It's been a long time since anyone called me Faris, yeah?
Faris spoke sadly. Then she put her hand around my neck and held me close. Her little pink lips got close to my ear, as if she was about to kiss me. Hey! What was going on?
Don't be so embarrassed, yeah?
She laughed mischievously. Then Faris, no, Rumaho Akiha, whispered in my ear while pretending to kiss me.
Be careful. Not just the Ministry of Defense, or the Americans. Adults are all liars. None of them tell the truth.
That's right. Faris had a special talent. Cheshire break. She was incredibly good at looking into someone's heart and seeing what they were thinking. Yeah, I just figured that out. One of them just tricked me. Faris looked surprised and took a step back.
That's sad, yeah?
Yeah. And then I heard the sound of another engine. This time it was coming from beyond the gate and inside the base. It belonged to a black luxury car with an E on the license plate. Behind it was a minibus. The two of them stopped in front of the gate. It was time for my reunion to end.
Welcome.
God. An American soldier as tall as a basketball player got out of the car. Welcome, everyone! My name is Hammond. Don't know where this voice came from, but my God, we're rolling with it. His Japanese was good, but not great. Everyone except Mr. Okabe, please get on this bus! He waved, smiling, but I could tell he wasn't going to allow any arguments. And the other American soldiers were still carrying their rifles as they stood guard without smiles. Shimayama and the other Japanese soldiers were watching us from a distance. They didn't try to stop us. They were just looking downwards.
Everyone but Okarin? What do you mean?
I'm going to America. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. There's no need to be scared. We're just gonna talk to you a little, and then we're gonna send you right back to the Okinawa Defense Bureau. Come along.
Okarin!
It's fine. Don't worry.
But...
Yuki, take care of Mayori.
Okay.
Yuki nodded and put her arm around Mayori's shoulder as she led her to the bus. Everyone else followed.
Okarin!
Tell my parents I said hi. Once everyone but me was on the bus, it left immediately. The area in front of the gate fell silent. It was hard to believe this existed in the same world as the places I crossed on my escape through Japan's main island. Alright, Mr. Okabe, please come this way. He told me to get into the back seat of the black luxury car. What would happen to me once I got inside? I tried to think about it, but I realized there was nothing I could do. I was just about to get into the car when... Okabe-kun! Oh, Jesus Christ! We're actually fighting now! Shimayama's scream was cut off by the sound of gunfire. In the corner of my eye, I saw the American soldiers firing without hesitation. No way. I tried to turn around when... Get inside! A large hand blocked my vision as Hammond held me down. I couldn't hear Shimayama's voice anymore. Through the gaps between his fingers, I could see that nothing was moving. And I knew exactly what that meant. I was shoved into the car before I had time to think about it. This is... I tried to open my mouth, but Hammond looked into my eyes and shook his head. I wasn't supposed to talk then. Hammond sat next to me, then closed the door. The car started to move. Soon we turned down a different road than the one the minibus was taking. America, huh? I had never been there before. What were they going to do to me there? Use me as a guinea pig? Cut open my head and dissect my brain? I probably wasn't going to be able to do any tourist things. I felt like screaming, but tried my best to stay calm. There's someone I want you to meet. Hammond suddenly spoke. Then he handed me something. I took it before I even looked at what it was. When I checked, it was a normal smartphone. It's not locked, just hit that button. Confused, I pressed the button as I was told. And then something appeared on the screen. Kurisu! It was the Amadeus Makase Kurisu. Why does the US military have Amadeus? I was about to ask Hammond when, for the first time in a month, that feeling came back. We're getting closer to 1 and I don't like it. The whole world and all its colours began to shift. There was a feeling of instability, like my brain wasn't able to recognise where it was. And then the dizziness and sense of falling, like when you get anemic. I could hear the blood vessels deep within my ears, and they sounded really loud. The sense of floating finally stopped, and my surroundings coalesced into firm shapes. Oh, Corinne! Mayuri was in front of me. Oh god, it's the 21st of January! I was very confused because I looked up at that and I'm like, that's not a normal date. No, it's American. God fucking damn it. I was back in the lab. In the room I knew well. There was no trace of Okinawa anywhere. Mayushi's going to get embarrassed if you keep staring like that. I realized that I was staring at Mayuri. I looked around the room. Daru was sitting in front of the PC like always, hunched over with his back toward me. Suzuha was reading a magazine on the couch. On the open page, I could read the title, New Encephalitis Strikes Worldwide. Are you in danger? The same couch, the same cheap fridge, Daru's computer desk, the dirty curtain that cut off the development room from the rest of the lab. The wall clock, which I picked up out of a garbage dump, told me it was past 6. I looked at the calendar, and 2010 was already gone. It was January 2011. The world line had changed again. I was back? To the old world line? No. Hey, Mayuri. This is Akihabara, right?
Akihabara?
Is it not Akihabara?
It's Akihabara!
What day is it again? Do I have any? Nope, none of these. Nothing new on the Rhine. I hate saying that word. Nothing new on the Rhine. It just makes me feel like there's like some kind of fucking German message system. Nothing new in the Rhineland.
The 21st.
Do you know who Gorbachev is?
Gorbachev? I think I've heard the name.
Perestroika, right? Russia. Oh, was Gorbachev back from the Soviet days? These days, when you think of Russia, you think of Putin. And I'm sure if he was in front of me and he glared at me, I'd pee my pants. Yeah, that sounds like good old Vladimir.
I know Putin. He's the president of Russia, right? Did you know he likes doggies? He keeps an Attica. I saw it on the news.
President? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. He's president. I like how on the other word line, apparently we've still managed to somehow get Putin, even though he just calls himself a different title. Mayuri, Daru, and Suzuha all looked over at me suspiciously. It felt like a long time since anyone had looked at me that way. I was back. I no longer had to worry that I might be killed at any second. Yeah, about that, no. I felt incredibly relieved. But at the same time, I wondered why had the world line changed again? I needed to calm down and think for a bit. I went up to the roof and booted up the web browser on my smartphone. Unlike during wartime, it connected immediately. I was amazed at the speed. Just getting an internet connection in the last world line would have been difficult. I started by searching for Gorbachev, and the results came back instantly. Perestroika, the Soviet Union's first and last president. The August coup d'etat and the collapse of the Soviet Union. All the key words I hoped to see were there. Is that when Stalingrad stopped being Stalingrad and started being St. Petersburg? I'm going to assume that's what it was. Probably shouldn't have anything with Stalin in its title. As soon as I confirmed that the Soviet Union was dismantled at the end of the 20th century and no longer existed, I closed the browser. Then why had the world line shifted again? I hadn't done anything. I didn't have any way to affect the divergence value. So what had changed it? Had whoever performed the first experiment in Russia undone it? Had they watched its progress for a month and been satisfied? Were they going to keep doing it? And if they did, would I get caught up in it each time? It's so cold. It was a mistake to come outside without a coat on. Nothing I could come up with by myself would be anything more than a guess. I went back to the lab. The wreaths we put up at the entrance for the Christmas party were still up.
Christmas party.
That Christmas party, huh? It'd only been a month, hadn't it? It felt like 1,000,000 years ago. I had no memories of what I'd done in this world line after the Christmas party. Oh, come to think of it, we left the decorations up. We should take those down. You know, Miss Fubuki collapsed during the party, right? So there was a big fuss and we sort of forgot to clean up. Nakase and I collapsed? Was that when the world line changed? Everyone remembered that I'd collapsed at the Christmas party. Which means I'd come back to the same world line as the one I'd been on before. If this was Russia's doing, it was terrifying to think they could control the world line to that degree. And then there was one more thing. It worried me that Fubuki had collapsed too. I stood there, lost in thought. Daru and Mayuri looked a little concerned. Okari? Oh, come to think of it, I was wondering how Nakase is doing. I quickly came up with an excuse.
Fubuki's still in the hospital.
In the hospital? Even though it's been a month?
She says it's fine, but they won't let her leave.
I've heard that lately, unless you were really, really sick, they wouldn't let you stay in the hospital for very long. Was Fubuki sick with something?
They still think she's got this, I guess.
Suzuha whispered as she held up the page of the magazine she was reading. New encephalitis strikes worldwide. Are you in danger? New encephalitis. I borrowed the magazine. They were talking about this last November. I'd seen a glimpse of it on the news. Outside of Japan, they'd seen almost 100 people, albeit with mild symptoms. In Japan, there were 10 people being kept at hospitals for examinations, or so it said. So it's made its way to Japan. And one of the 10 was Fubuki? Was it transmittable by air? We didn't catch it at the Christmas party, did we? I knew that getting nervous wouldn't help anything, but still, I wondered.
Hey, shouldn't you go to the hospital too, Okuin? You were in worse shape than she was, you know?
Yeah, but Mayuri, the difference is I've done this before. Yeah. Yeah, I'll think about it. I gave a half-hearted answer to Mayuri and turned back to the magazine. Strange symptoms being found all over the world. Cause unknown. Sudden memory loss. Memories differ from those of the people around you. Losing all sense of passage of time. Losing the ability to tell a difference between dreams and reality. And sometimes having waking dreams. The article was filled with things like that. This was just like reading Steiner. And it matched exactly with what Shimayama had told me in the other world line. Yeah, very realistic dreams, for example. In particularly bad instances, they could also be called waking dreams. I'm told at times you lose the ability to tell the difference between dreams and reality. There are others who said they have similar dreams, and not just one or two. I wondered back then if Fubuki possessed reading Steiner, too. Maybe the reason she collapsed at the Christmas party wasn't some new disease, but the unexpected activation of reading Steiner. That would mean her diagnosis was wrong. The unnecessary tests and treatments that they gave her wouldn't help a bit. It looked like I needed to talk to Fubuki. Oh boy. Well, a lot just fucking happened, didn't it? A lot just happened. But I feel like I need to call this an episode here because, well, that's a good omen. The auto timer for my TV to go off has just come on. So, yeah, good time. Well, no, a good time was not had, but it was good timing on its behalf. It's all by the by. I'm talking shite again. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this episode of Steins Gate Zero. If you like the video in any capacity, please give the video a like down below. Leave a comment on whatever you feel like it. And if you want to keep up to date with whenever I post videos, be they of this, Persona 5 The Royal, or Valkyria Chronicles. Yes, I really can't escape that World War vibe that's going on recently. Look, I didn't intend for this to happen. It just happened. And now there are 2 series running on my channel that involve world wars. I'm hoping Persona 5 The Royal doesn't add a world war feature to it. But yeah, as I was saying, if you want to keep up to date with whenever I post videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. In theory, YouTube sends you alerts as to when I post videos, but failing that, all subscribing to the channel does is, you made me feel nice and warm and fuzzy inside, so thanks for that. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I've been Nyx, and I will see you guys next time. Laters!